So once again, welcome to Learn the Library for Psychology and the Marriage and Family Sciences. This workshop is going to introduce you to databases that are available within our library for those of you enrolled in any of our Psychology and MFS programs. I'm going to talk to you about techniques that you can utilize in these databases in order to become more efficient at your searching. We have a handful of learning objectives that we're going to accomplish by the end of the workshop. First off, I'm going to once again point out to you that Learn the Library Psychology and MFS page, because in addition to a recorded version of this workshop, there's some additional links and resources there that can be very helpful. We're going to spend a good majority of our time looking at specific databases based on our information need. So what I mean by that is we're going to take a look at databases that are most beneficial when we're looking for peer-reviewed journal articles. We'll take a look at databases that are great for finding eBooks, for test instruments, for statistics, as well as video content. So we're going to cover a wide array of content. And I see I have a question in the chat. The question is, I'm enrolled in industrial psychology. Is this going to be good for me? And I would say yes, absolutely. I'm going to cover some psychology resources, but you might also find it beneficial, or even more so beneficial, to explore our Learn the Library business workshop. And I'm not sure when our next live session is, but if you come to services and go to library workshops, you can check out the live calendar, or you can go to that Learn the Library page and check out a recorded version of the workshop. Okay? So while I'm hovering here over Learn the Library, I'm just backtracking to that page I showed you just a second ago. So our Learn the Library Psychology and MFS page, again accessed from this blue tabulated menu. This is going to correlate with today's workshop. We have a recorded version of the workshop. Then we also offer you a number of quick videos. So the recorded version of the workshop, that's an entire hour. However, we have videos that are approximately 5 minutes in length, intended to give you some quick shot instruction on particular psychology and MFS resources in the library. And then lastly, we have links here to guides. We actually have guides to every single specialization that we offer in the School of Behavioral Sciences. So I definitely recommend taking a look at your specialization guide listed here. All right, heading back to the library's homepage. So we are going to jump into the meat of our presentation here, which is taking a look at databases that are really helpful when we're looking for certain resource types. All of the library's databases are going to be accessible from the main menu bar once we click on this link for A to Z databases. But before I click on that, I just want to quickly address what you're seeing here on our central homepage, this search box, which we have dubbed Roadrunner Search. Roadrunner Search is a search engine that is going to search approximately 95% of our library's databases all at once. Okay, so NCU Library subscribes to 125 individual databases. So databases are simply collections of resources. They are typically proprietary collections. The library pays a subscription in order to provide access to those individual databases. Roadrunner Search is intended to make your searching easier. It's going to hit almost all of the databases simultaneously. But the downside of that is you're not getting very granular in terms of subject content. You're searching across multidisciplinary sources. You are hitting databases that are relevant to education as well as business, in addition to psychology and marriage and family sciences. So we're going to talk about those individual databases that are making up part of Roadrunner Search. Let's go to A to Z databases now. These are going to be arranged alphabetically. You have a brief description of every single database, just letting you know what type of content you can intend to find within that database, as well as what subject matter is covered. We are going to start by taking a look at peer-reviewed journal articles. The majority of your sources have to be coming from that type of publication. And we do have a number of databases in the library that actually contain 100% scholarly peer-reviewed journal content. Others will permit you to limit your results to that specific content. So we're going to take a look at a handful of databases that are mentioned here in the workshop outline. I do want to mention that we may not have time to cover every single database that's listed in the outline, but we'll see what we can accomplish within the hour. So let's first take a look at, we have a number of psychology databases which are provided by a major database vendor called EBSCOhost. And the other thing that I want to show you here with our A to Z databases page, you have several filters here at the top. So you could actually begin to limit your databases by a particular subject. And then I'll show you what database types looks like. And we'll do this right now. So in terms of subject, I'm going to start with psychology. We can certainly toggle over to marriage and family sciences. So by selecting psychology, I've limited the databases down to 35. And as I mentioned, we are going to take a look at journal article content first. So under database type, I can actually select journal article. And now I'm looking at 19 total databases in which I can access psychology-related journal article content. The first database that we are going to explore from our list here is referred to as Psych Articles. And as I mentioned, Psych Articles is provided by one of our major database vendors, EBSCOhost. So EBSCOhost is this giant conglomerate database that's actually comprised of, I guess you could refer to them as sub-databases, and Psych Articles happens to be one of them. So we could click right on EBSCOhost Databases. It's going to launch a new window, and while this is loading, I just want to give you a brief idea of what Psych Articles is going to entail. Psych Articles is a database provided by the APA, the American Psychological Association, and it contains over 70 top full-text psychology publications. It covers a number of disciplines, everything from human physiology, personality psychology, social psychology, educational psychology, and more. Now, we're searching across all of the EBSCOhost databases, so what you could do here is simply click the hyperlink for Choose Databases. It's going to list all those EBSCOhost databases. I can actually deselect all of these by toggling our checkmark box up here at the top. And now I'll just go ahead and only select Psych Articles. I already told you what Psych Articles is about, but you can hover over the little text bubble to the right of any database and it will also pop up a description of that particular database. You can see that Psych Article content can be historical. It dates all the way back, in some cases, to 1894. Let's click OK. And I can verify that I'm only searching Psych Articles because it is now going to promptly display that above my search box. I'm doing some pretty broad searches here simply for demonstration purposes. I just want to make sure that you're fully aware of all the features of the databases, but you would probably want to get a bit more specific with your search. And if you're struggling with building advanced searches, I highly recommend that you either attend or view our Searching 101 workshop if you have not done so already. So I am looking for anything related to social anxiety disorder. I am using an advanced search technique called phrase searching to ensure that I'm getting accurate results. I'll click Search to execute. And now I am looking at 85 results, all that have to feature my key term, social anxiety disorder. If you've used our Roadrunner search, this interface should look really familiar to you. EBSCOhost built out our Roadrunner Search, so the interface is nearly identical. You can click on a corresponding title in order to get some additional record details, including being able to read the abstract for that particular article. Your other option is, if you would prefer to browse right from your results menu, you can hover over the magnifying glass icon to the right, and it's going to give you some additional detail right there. Now, let's take a look over on the left-hand side. This is our Refine Results panel. This is where we could go ahead and further refine or narrow our search. As I mentioned, we are taking a look at databases right now in which we could access scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles. Psych articles, despite its name, Psych articles, actually does contain some other content aside from articles. So it has a limiter available for scholarly peer-reviewed journals. You would simply want to go over to the left and ensure that you checkmark that box so that you're strictly looking at scholarly peer-reviewed journal article content. I'll show you as we proceed forward. In some databases, that limiter will not be available simply because the database is only comprised of that resource type. Another feature that I would like to show you about psych articles, because we do get this question quite frequently, Psych articles has some advanced search features that you might find very beneficial. The advanced search features are going to be available as a hyperlink below your search box. I'm going to click on that link so that I can see my options. You see that we still have social anxiety disorder in our top search boxes. We have additional search boxes now so that we could build an even more precise search using Boolean operators. But I'm going to scroll down here, and you can see that we have various options available. We could limit by publication date. We have a full text limiter, and I actually did just get a question come in as to whether we need to checkmark full text. And you know what, that's a really great question, and I'll address that right now. So a number of the library's databases are going to have a full text limiter available. When you checkmark that full text, you are going to limit yourself to only what's immediately accessible, meaning that you can click on a PDF and read the full text article right this very second when you select full text. You may be asking yourself, of course that's what I want to do, why wouldn't I select that every time? And here's the explanation that I always provide. NCU Library subscribes to quite a number of databases. As I mentioned, we subscribe to 125 in total, and those 125 databases are literally comprised of millions of resources. We have access to a ton of content. However, we do not have immediate electronic access to everything that has ever been published. That's impossible. No library can provide that level of support. So, if you are in your, I typically say you're in a graduate level program, and let's say you're working on a long-term project like your dissertation or your master's thesis, typically you want to be leaving off full text because you want to be exposing yourself to everything that is out there and not just what NCU Library subscribes to. The last thing I'm going to mention is for anything we don't subscribe to in full text, you can always request that at no charge through our interlibrary loan service. And if you're not familiar with interlibrary loan, I encourage you to attend our workshop on it, or you can check out a quick tutorial video that we have, 5 minutes, walks you through interlibrary loan. And if anybody has any questions on that, I can definitely stick around and address that at the end of the workshop. Okay, so that is my little spiel in relation to full text and when you should leave it off. And when you should leave it on is when you have an assignment that's due in the next 2 hours and you need resources right now. You definitely want to make sure you check mark full text. All right, so another unique search option here in Psych articles that I wanted to point out, and it's a question that we get quite frequently. It's related to whether or rather where you can go to specifically locate quantitative or qualitative research studies. And PsycArticles is one of the only databases in which you can actually specifically limit to that type of research. It's going to be contained here in the methodology search option, or field option rather. And if you scroll on down, you'll see that you have the option to limit to a qualitative or a quantitative study. Okay, so just be aware that you have that option available within PsycArticles. You would simply select that and then click search, and it will execute your search and only return that specific type of study. Any questions on PsycArticles? And I hope that I addressed all the questions in chat clearly. Please let me know if you have any questions so far. Okay. And I have a question here related to what is Plumx metrics, and that's a great question. This is a new feature that's been built into the EBSCOhost databases. So you'll see this Plumx option for quite a number of articles. It's kind of interesting. So what they're actually collecting now is data on how popular a particular study is within social media and out there on the web. So if I hover over the Plumx options, it should tell me, that one didn't give me as much detail, some will give you more. It's going to tell me who's talking about this article. So first of all, who's taking a look at it, how many people, how many times is it being cited by other researchers? This one again isn't the best example, but it will actually also give you detail on who's talking about this article in various social media platforms. So Facebook and Twitter, who's tweeting about it? Is it creating a lot of buzz? Is this a brand new study that's having some kind of groundbreaking impact on the field? That's what Plumx is trying to reveal for you. Just really how popular, how impactful is this particular study within its field? I hope that helps. Great question. Okay. Any other questions, just let me know in chat, but I'm going to move back to our A to Z page. All right, so we were looking at the psychology databases. So the next database that I want to take a closer look at, I'm going to scroll all the way down here, is Taylor and Francis Online. Now, Taylor and Francis Online is not strictly a behavioral sciences database. It's actually multidisciplinary, so it's going to have resources related to all of the schools at NCU. However, it does contain titles from Psychology Press, which creates some high-impact, high-level research related to subject areas like adolescent studies, developmental psychology, family studies, sports psychology, work and organizational psychology, and much more along that vein. Now, this is one database in which all of the content contained within is coming from peer-reviewed journals. So we're not going to see that limiter that we just saw in PsycArticles that we would have to checkmark to limit to that source type. The other thing that I want to mention about Taylor and Francis Online, we don't subscribe to all of the content that Taylor and Francis Online potentially provides. We only subscribe to those subsets which make the most sense for our schools and our programs. So I'll show you how you can differentiate between what's available and what's not available. You're always going to have your basic search box. So you could try any particular keyword here, but I also wanted to show you that almost all of the databases are going to feature some type of specialist subject browsing option. So if you just wanted to come into the database and browse by a particular subject to see all of the journals that they provide access to, you can certainly do so. For example, we could come over here to behavioral sciences, and this is going to get more and more granular. I can continue to narrow down what I mean by behavioral sciences. I would do so over here on the left-hand side. You can see that there's an option for even more subjects, and I can get more and more specific by clicking on my plus sign. So I have, let's say, mental health, and let's look specifically at marriage, family, and sex therapy. Okay, so now I'm just looking at journal articles that are related to marriage, family, and sex therapy. And the other interesting thing that you can do here, so this is a lot of articles that we're looking at, over 16,000. I could toggle over to journals instead if I was interested in exploring journal titles related to this particular research field. So here's what I want to show you. If we subscribe to the content, if we have access to that particular journal, or if we have access to that particular article, you're going to see a green check mark in the right-hand corner, which means you have total free access to everything. If you see, hopefully you can differentiate this, but this second check mark here, it's slightly, I don't know how to say this, grayed out in a way, like the color isn't as vivid, and what that means is we only partially subscribe to it. So maybe we only subscribe to research from the past 5 years as opposed to the inception of the journal back in the 1970s. And then if that check mark is entirely absent, that means that we do not subscribe to that particular journal at all. But what's amazing is we have access, or at least partial access, to all of these titles, which is awesome. And the same would be true of looking at this specific articles. You're either going to see the green check mark, or it should be absent if we don't have that article available. And again, we have all those articles, so that's great. Any questions on Taylor and Francis Online? Okay, I thought of one other thing I actually wanted to show you. So you may be asking, how do I ensure that I only look at things that I have immediate access to? I have an assignment that's due tonight. I need to have access to these resources. So we'll do a basic search up here using the search box at the top. We'll say that I'm looking for anything related to PTSD. So now I'm looking at 27 articles. If you wanted to ensure that everything's immediately accessible, all you need to do over on the left-hand side is check mark this box next to only show content that I have full access to. There's no other checkbox for scholarly peer-reviewed journal content. Again, all of this content is coming from peer-reviewed titles. Heading back to our A to Z databases page. So the next database that I want to expose you to, another really powerful multidisciplinary database, is Sage Journals. So Sage Journals is going to have content, again, covering the gamut of programs and schools that we offer here at NCU, but Sage Journals are strictly peer-reviewed titles. So once again, you are not going to see that limiter for scholarly peer-reviewed. You can rest assured that the content that you're seeing within this particular database is already coming from a peer-reviewed journal title. We have very recent content within Sage. That's why I like to point it out. We don't have journals dating any further back than 1999, so it's really going to be the most up-to-date, most current research, and it covers a wide array of subject areas, everything within the behavioral sciences to urban affairs. So there's a whole range of subjects here. Again, you have your basic search box, so you could just go ahead and start a search for a particular topic. Or if you scroll down a bit, you can browse journals by discipline. And again, it's going to give you that option to get more and more granular. So you can go to social sciences and humanities, and you can keep chipping away until you're only looking at a specific refined set related to your particular subject area. I'm going to use the search box here and say that I'm looking for anything related to auditory hallucinations. Again, I'm going to use phrase searching since I am searching for a specific phrase. And while we're waiting for our search results to pop up here, Sage Journals is another database vendor who provides access to many journals, a lot of which we don't need access to because they're not relevant to our schools or programs. So it's possible that you will encounter resources in here that we do not have access to. And I'll show you right now from our results screen how you can determine whether we have access. If it is an article to which, or rather a journal to which we do indeed subscribe, you're going to have an unlocked icon on the left-hand side here, which means that you could click right on the PDF button and get to that full text article. If we don't have the full text available, that icon itself is going to be locked. And here's an example. So we have one here in which the icon has changed. There's another one directly below that. And you can see why. These are dating from 1993 and 1983. As I mentioned, we are more concerned with subscribing to the most up-to-date current research. That's what Sage is known most for. They're very strong in up-to-date, the latest groundbreaking research. But again, anything that we don't have access to, you can request through interlibrary loan. I always want to provide that caveat that we support what we subscribe to along with our interlibrary loan service, which is totally free to students. Do I have any questions on Sage Journals Online? Okay, so I have another good question in chat, and you're ahead of the game here. So the question is, what is the best search engine? And by search engine, I assume you mean database. What is the best database for surveys, for test instruments? And we are totally going to cover that. So if you just sit tight with me, we are going to address that by the end of the hour. We are at this point moving on to a different source type. So I know there are a number of other journal article databases listed in the outline, but for the sake of time, we still got to get into books. We're going to take a look at test instruments. We're going to take a look at statistics, and I also want to show you videos. Okay, so let's move on to books. I'm heading back to our A to Z databases page. And I'm going to scroll back up here to the top. So remember, I had applied all these filters for us to just look at psychology databases that feature journal articles. When I'm done doing that, or if I want to change source types or change my subjects, all I need to do is click that button for clear the filters. And now I'm looking at all 125 databases again. So let's start from scratch. This time around, we'll say that I want to take a look at the marriage and family sciences databases. And then I'll go ahead and from our database type option, I will select eBooks. So that has limited us to 6 specific databases here. And there's 2, let's take a look at 2. All right, so the first database that I want to point out is our Psychiatry Online database. Psychiatry Online is a collection of psychiatric references. It includes, for the most part, books. However, there are journals and some self-assessment tools that are built into this database as well. I particularly want to point out this database because it's the only place where you can access the DSM-5. For those of you who are not familiar with that, the DSM-5 stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It is a comprehensive and well-known resource that's used among health professionals, social workers, as well as forensic and legal specialists. So if at any point in time during your studies you need access to the DSM-5, you want to come straight to the Psychiatry Online database, only place you can get it. And you can see it's actually accessible right from the database's landing page. So as soon as you hit the database landing page, all you need to do is click this first hyperlink for Explore the Latest Edition. And you're able to start navigating and reading through the full text directly from the database. So it will open up a hyperlinked table of contents, and from here I could browse specific sections. Perhaps I'm going to diagnostic criteria and codes and taking a look at specific disorders within the DSM-5. But in addition to the DSM-5, I mentioned there are a number of other books as well as journals available from Psychiatry Online. So let me get back up here to our main navigation bar across the top of the screen. Under books, you'll see that there are a number of actually textbooks and different handbooks related to psychiatry, substance abuse, child and adolescent psychiatry, traumatic brain injury, positive psychiatry, psychotherapeutic treatments, and more. Or if you wanted to take a look at the journals, there are also a number of psychiatric journals available within Psychiatry Online as well. Any questions on Psychiatry Online? Okay. Back on our A to Z databases page, again, I am just looking at eBook databases related to the marriage and family sciences. The next eBook database that I want to expose you to, and for those of you who have been using our library for some time, I just want to make sure you're aware as well. We have a database that was formerly referred to as eBrary. Okay, so for those of you who are like, hey, what happened to eBrary? It's still around. They've just renamed it eBook Central. So just so you're aware, it went through a little bit of a facelift. eBrary is now eBook Central, but it's the exact same eBook database that you know and love. Within eBook Central, we have access to over 100,000 full text book titles. And again, it's multidisciplinary, but we have a ton of content related to the behavioral sciences. And while I'm waiting for that to load, let's see, I have another question here. Okay, the question is whether these databases would be helpful for forensic psychology, and absolutely. So everything that I'm showing you, it's going to have subject breakdown. So you'll be able to find journals, articles, resources related to industrial and organizational psychology, related to forensic psychology, related to health psychology, related to all of our programs. I hope that helps. I hope that was your question. Let me know if I misunderstood. All right, so we're in eBook Central now, and we have our basic search box up here at the top. They used to have an option right on the landing page to browse subjects, but it looks like it is now accessible via hyperlink. So let's take a look at that. I'm actually still getting used to the new look myself. So yeah, we can click on that, and then it looks like it's broken down our subjects here. Or again, we can use the basic search box from the landing page. So let's say that I'm interested in just, again, I'm keeping my search terms very broad here, but maybe I want to know more about the field of family therapy in general. I want to know about its evolution. I want to know about specific theory and theorists. So I'm just doing a basic search here for family therapy. Okay. And I have another question here, and you and I may need to take this offline or wait till the end of the workshop. The question is Psychology Online the best database for this? And I assume you mean the Psychiatry Online database. And no, I would not say that it's absolutely the best database for forensic psychology. The point of this workshop is to expose you to multiple resources. There's not going to be one single resource that you're going to consult all the time. You want to ensure that you're exposing yourself to everything that's available in the library. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we're looking at our titles here related to family therapy. If I'm interested in any particular title, here's an introduction to family therapy. I'll just click on that title itself. Here's what I want to let you know about eBook Central. This is unique to this particular database. You will not have this option available in any other eBook database. You can actually begin to read your title online simply by clicking the Read Online button. It's going to open up right in your browser. However, if you would prefer to read this book offline and download it onto a compatible device, so I'm talking your smartphones, your tablets, your e-readers, your laptop, your desktop. There are a number of compatible devices that you can actually download any title within eBook Central. That means that you don't have to come back into NCU Library and look up the book. You're just able to access that book right from your particular device. Again, this is only an option within eBook Central. If you do decide to read the title online, on the right-hand side is your viewing panel. On the left-hand side is your table of contents. And another awesome feature within this database is the ability to search within any of these books. So you can search for your keywords. Maybe you're interested in a specific family therapy and you want to know where it's discussed in this book. You have that option within eBook Central. Any questions on eBook Central? I'm sorry, that I just got a great comment. One of you said that this is the best thing since sliced bread. I'm glad. I'm glad to get you excited about databases. Obviously, librarians get excited about them, but it's an awesome thing when we can share that with students. So hopefully you guys are getting something out of this. We are going to move on to our next source type, which was already referred to, test instruments. So that is going to play a huge role for you if you are enrolled in one of our doctoral programs. Finding a test instrument can actually be really difficult. So I'm just going to quickly make you aware of one or two of our test instrument databases here. But I do want to mention that we offer a 1-hour workshop around test instruments because, again, it can be very challenging. So I would advise that you also attend that workshop, review the recording, because it's going to have a lot more information than I could possibly cover right now. But let's take a look at what we do have available through our library. Again, I'm going to go back to our A to Z databases page. And let me clear all of our filters here. And I'm just going to go directly to database types here because we don't have too many databases that are strictly comprised of test instruments. So I'll click under type, tests and measurements, and now I'm looking at 6 databases in which I can find that type of content. The database that I want to highlight for you in particular is our PsychTest database. So PsychTest is the only database to contain full text non-commercial test instruments, and that's something that we cover in the test instrument workshop, the difference between non-commercial and commercial and what exactly that means. But PsychTest is a repository, again, of non-commercial full text psychological tests and measurements. Let's launch it, and we're going to do just a quick search here so that I can show you something else that's really awesome with this database. We'll say that I'm looking for a test instrument related to trauma. Again, I know this is a really broad search term, and I've been doing a lot of broad search terms intentionally. The one thing that I do want to mention, though, when you are looking for test instruments, you intentionally do want to keep your search terms broad. So something just to keep in mind, you never want to be so specific or so granular when you're searching for a test instrument. Try to keep those words pretty broad. Let's click search. We'll see what kind of test instruments we have related to trauma. This is a database in which all of the test instruments will not necessarily be available in full text. So if you only want to see our full text options within PsychTest, make sure that you check mark that box over on the left-hand side, which I'm going to do so right now. And now I'm looking at our trauma-related test instruments. I can click on any one of those to get some additional record details, and I highly recommend that you do so. You want to take a look at the record view, and here's why. In addition to telling you information on the author, you're also going to understand the purpose, why this particular test instrument was developed. They're going to give you a pretty thorough description of the formatting and etc. for this particular test instrument. But what you want to pay particular attention to, this is something that is hugely, it really comes into play with test instruments. It's related to permissions, and I'm not going to go into extreme detail about permissions. Again, that's covered in our test instruments workshop. But when you are using test instruments, you always have to ensure that you have permission to adapt or use that test instrument. And what's amazing about the PsychTest database is it's actually going to tell you with absolute certainty what you need to do. So it's going to be a field referred to as permissions, and you can see in this instance, if I wanted to use this trauma scale, I would have to contact the publisher and ask for permission to do so. And this actually wasn't the best example. I was hoping to show you one. Let me see if I can pull one up here very quickly. Great, this is what I wanted to show you. There are actually a number of test instruments within PsychTest that have been cleared to use already. So if you see a test instrument and the permissions field indicates that you may use it for research and teaching, that means you are totally free to use that test instrument, adapt it, and use it within your research. Again, if you want more info on permissions and on test instruments and commercial and non-commercial and how to find them, attend our test instrument tests and measurements workshop. All right, so we have a little over 10 minutes here, and we still need to take a look at statistics and videos. So if you have any questions on PsychTest, please let me know in chat. But I am heading back to our A to Z databases page so that I can show you a statistic database. I'm going to once again clear all our filters, so I'm looking at all of the databases, and then I'll go back in, and this time I'm going to select our limiter here for data and statistics. And you can see that we have only one database, but it is an extremely powerful database. So Statista, as the name implies, is a database that is entirely comprised of statistical data. It covers over 60,000 topics, so it's going to cover beyond the behavioral sciences to include all of our schools, but No matter what your topic, if you're looking for statistical information, I recommend that you start with Statista. Just as we're seeing in all of these databases, we have our basic search box here, or we have the option to browse by specific industries in the main menu bar, or to browse by specific topics. We'll say that I'm looking for statistical information related to depression. I know, a very broad topic, but we'll go ahead and type in depression, and then it's going to give me statistics related to that particular topic. If any of the titles sound interesting to you, you click directly on that particular search result. It's going to populate the statistic for you. It's going to give you information on the source, and it will also tell you more information about that statistic. So when it was gathered and any other additional details contained around that statistic. Now here's why I love Statista. They provide you with multiple ways of getting that statistical information and utilizing it how you see fit. So you can actually download any of the statistics as an image, so a PNG file, as a PDF, as an Excel spreadsheet, so maybe you want to play around with those numbers, or even as a PowerPoint slide. So let's say that you were building this into some type of presentation. So there are multiple ways that you can take this data and format it how it's going to fit your particular research assignment project needs. Do I have any questions on Statista? In addition to Statista, there are a number of authoritative websites, for the most part government websites, that provide really great psychological statistical information, and we've included those links in the workshop outline. Okay, if you have questions, let me know in chat. I'm moving back to A to Z databases in order to cover our last source type here in our remaining 10 minutes of the workshop. Going to clear out our filters again, and this time under database type, I'm going to select academic videos. Okay, so we have 11 databases containing strictly video content, but what's nice is we have several that are strictly related to the behavioral sciences, the psychology and marriage and family sciences. We have our psychotherapy.net collection. So these are actually in-depth training videos for counseling professionals. And as I continue to scroll down here, we have two additional collections. One is the Sage Video Collection for psychology, or rather for counseling and psychotherapy. And our other collection is for psychology. I love the Sage collections. They do a really amazing job of providing current video content. Let's take a look at counseling and psychotherapy. Just as with our other databases, you have your basic search box, so you could certainly search by a particular topic, or you have the option of coming down, browsing by your topic here. And lastly, they have featured videos. So we could say that I'm interested in seeing anything related to, let's say, couples therapy. Go ahead and type in my search term. My video content is going to generate to the left. I have some options for further refining my search on the right-hand side. And you should be seeing, for the most part, more up-to-date content. You can see that these videos are from 2015, but you should certainly see video content up into 2017. Like I said, Sage is really good about staying on top of this stuff. click on the video title itself. That's going to give you all the detail that you need to know. Over on the right-hand side, you can toggle between a transcript for the video as well as a summary, just providing some additional detail on the video. And if you scroll down below, you'll have a full abstract letting you know precisely what this video is going to cover. If you ever need to get video content for any reason, you are able to actually create your own custom clips of content. That is an option built into the database that I like to point out. And you have an option of creating an optional account. You can create an optional account within Sage Video and actually create your own playlists. So that's another feature built into the Sage Video databases. All right, so we only have about 5 minutes left here, but like I said, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to unmute the lines and take any questions that anyone has. If you don't have any questions at this point, please feel free to sign off. I'll just end by saying that I hope the workshop was helpful. I hope you got something out of this. And you will be receiving a follow-up email. The email is going to contain a couple different links. One link will be to a recorded version of the workshop. And the other link is going to be